SCS software is once again showing that it listens to its community. The developers have just announced a new feature coming to Euro Truck Simulator 2 and American Truck Simulator with the upcoming 1.60 update. The feature is called the Expanded Rest Mechanic. And while it may not sound as exciting as a new DLC or a map rework at first glance, in practice it's one of those changes that most of us will notice during almost every single trip. So let's take a closer look at what exactly is changing. If you've been playing Euro Truck Simulator 2 or American Truck Simulator for a long time, you're probably very familiar with the current fatigue system. After driving for a certain amount of time, the game tells us that the driver is tired. We find a parking spot, click rest, and a few seconds later, we wake up after a predefined number of hours. The problem is that we have almost no control over when the next stage of our journey begins. Sometimes we stop in the evening and wake up in the middle of the night. Other times, we'd like to set off at sunrise, but the system simply doesn't allow it. And that's exactly what's about to change. The biggest addition is the ability to plan your rest periods yourself. Once you stop at a parking area, you'll be able to decide how long you want to sleep and exactly when you want to wake up. It sounds simple, but it actually opens up a lot of possibilities. If you enjoy driving during the day, you'll be able to plan your rest so you can hit the road at sunrise. If you prefer night driving and the atmosphere of empty highways, you'll be able to adjust your schedule accordingly as well. It's a relatively small change, but one that gives players much more control over their gameplay experience. SCS has also reworked the fatigue system itself. From now on, it will be divided into two separate indicators. The first one is the rest state. This is what will represent the driver's actual fatigue level. The longer we drive, the more it will be depleted. Once it becomes critically low, we'll receive a warning notification. If we completely ignore fatigue, microsleep events will start occurring in-game. These brief losses of concentration could easily result in a crash or an unexpected visit to the roadside ditch. That certainly sounds much more realistic than the current system. The second indicator is the mandatory brake system, and this is where we move into the territory of real-world driving regulations. The game will monitor how much time we've spent behind the wheel and will remind us in advance when it's time to take a break. If we ignore the warnings and exceed the allowed driving time, we'll receive a traffic violation penalty. In practice, this means that driver fatigue and legal driving regulations will now operate independently from one another. That's definitely a more interesting solution than the single fatigue bar we have today. In American Truck Simulator, drivers will be able to stay on the road for up to 14 hours before a mandatory break is required, followed by 10 consecutive hours of rest. In Euro Truck Simulator 2, the limit will be 10 hours of driving, followed by 9 consecutive hours of mandatory rest. As you can see, SCS is continuing to push its games closer to real-world trucking regulations. What's important is that both new systems can be enabled or disabled independently in the settings. That means players looking for a more realistic experience can use the full system. At the same time, those who prefer a more casual gameplay experience won't be forced to use it, and in my opinion, that's exactly how it should be. Personally, I think this is a very good move from SCS software. It may not be the biggest feature ever added to ETS2 or ATS, but it's one of those additions that genuinely affects day-to-day gameplay. We're finally getting more control over rest periods, more realistic time management, and an additional layer of planning during long-haul journeys. What's more, this update could be the beginning of something bigger. For years, part of the community has been asking for more advanced driver work time mechanics. Some players would love to see electronic tachographs, more detailed driving hour tracking, or even more realistic transport regulations. Of course, SCS hasn't announced anything like that yet, but looking at the direction these changes are taking, it's hard not to feel that the expanded rest mechanic could be the first step towards something like that. But what do you think about this change? Will you be using the new rest system, or have you had fatigue completely disabled for years? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, because we've still got plenty more information about Update 1.60 coming your way. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.